Welcome to the Heroes of Reality podcast, a podcast about the game of life and the hero's journey we all experience. Let's jump in with our host, Dylan Watkins, as he introduces today's guest.
What up, young adventurers? Dylan here. On today's podcast, I interviewed Tony Sciarra. Now, he has an amazing record of working for first Tesla, then Apple, then Facebook, and then back to Tesla. And he talks about his journey of discovery. Along the way, he actually creates a program, goes into colleges where he helps young kids with new paths and new opportunities, teaches them and trains them to be service technicians for Tesla, and talks about how he gamified it from S1s to S2s to S3s, and how they really create new opportunities for people who may be struggling in these positions, but with hard work, with dedication, with commitment, and with enthusiasm, and the willingness to be flexible, could really open up their world of new possibilities with Tesla. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Tony Sciarra. How you been, brother?
Good. I just busy. We're taking the success we've had with the service side of the program that I've built, and we're building an academy-like program for both energy and manufacturing. So it's turning into one big umbrella organization with three verticals within it. So service, manufacturing, and energy. So it's cool. It's I think a lot of its proof of concept has really resonated with a lot of people, and the results obviously are where you really get further asks, and we've produced some really strong results. Both just great technical talent has come out of this now, our technician space. We've been able to raise the bar of entry-level technicians coming in.
Could you explain just a little bit of kind of what you do?
So my role really is on the recruitment side of this. So I'm more on the people side of things. And so what we do, what my team does now is we do the process into the program. So getting candidates into our program. So whether it's sourcing or referrals or working with the host community college that is hosting this, or and then on top of that, doing we handle the recruitment process while in it, and then the recruitment process out of it. So what I mean by that is there's no guarantees in the program. It's really tough to build, hey, you got into this program, you've got a job, right? Things happen, life happens. People might be able to handle whatever they can handle. We then we work with them. We do resume workshop, interview workshop while they're in the program. And then we get them we have them interview and go through a placement process with one of our various service centers across the country. So we've got, go for it.
So basically, this kind of synopsis reflect back to you. Essentially, you're recruiting college kids, and you give them an opportunity to apply their skills to really educate them on how to kind of build, repair Teslas, right? Mm-hmm. And then while they're going through this kind of educational training at the college about how to build Teslas, you're kind of preparing them to possibly get hired at a Tesla facility. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I don't like to say necessarily students and how we're not teaching anyone how to become a technician. We're teaching them how to be advanced technicians, right? So It's really difficult to teach someone how to be a technician in 12 weeks. There's just too much going on. So the ideal candidate really is, and it's not always kids. A majority of them are people who have been in the industry and are coming back for a second career. We have military veterans. So a lot, we get, those who've been doing as a wheeled vehicle mechanic for 4, 6, 8, however many years they've been enlisted in one of the armed services, or someone who has graduated the auto tech program, right? And so myriad of reasons why, but the main reasons is this 12-week program is like sipping from a fire hydrant, right? It's a lot of information. So we don't want any other static in their lives going on, right? It costs them a tuition because it's a certification program through the school, but we're paying them while they're going through the school. So we're paying them a rate. They've got benefits. They just don't have equity. And the idea here is you've got 12 weeks to essentially secure a spot, somewhere across the country. We try and play matchmaker, or we try and keep them where they'd like to go. But in that 12 weeks, they're getting 80 to 85% of the in-class learning and hands-on training that most of our technicians get over a lifespan of their career, right? So we're front-loading them with all this knowledge, or pun intended, supercharging them up front, right? Yeah. And it really isn't anything new or different than most automotive industry. We've taken the approach where we're going to control it and really put more skin in the game. So it's our instructor, it's our equipment, it's our tooling, it's our cars, obviously. It's, our cachet and the name, but, and then it's even our server, right? Because of the Internet of Things, our cars operate, we build our own geofence. Our cars have to speak, we have a big toolbox and garage that is all online that everyone uses. And the beauty of it too is, we're not on a dealership system. So what you're doing in Los Angeles is the same as Miami, is the same as Chicago, as New York, right? We own all our service centers. So we're trying to create this sort of pseudo mini service center that gives them enough exposure, training, and confidence and ability to go anywhere in the country, because we have such a need for them across the country.
Well, yeah, imagine that, you're saying that the technician, so technician being, is that like a kind of like a car mechanic? Is that
almost yeah? So we call them technicians. But you would, for all intents and purposes, a mechanic, right?
Yeah. But it's got to be entirely different. There's no oils, there's no pistons, things like that. They don't fire the same way. It seems like
our car still runs the same. Cars run the same. It's just the powertrain that pushes them, right? So there's still four wheels, there's still brakes, there's still suspension, there's still HVAC, there's still window regulators and door handles and windshield wipers and things of that nature. There's still sensors and diodes and wire diagrams and wire harnesses, right? It's just a matter of there's not a lot of mechanical going on. There's no oil, there's no engine, transmission, fuel tank, or exhaust system, right? So we've built toolkits specifically for us that could get you, 90% of the way through all of our, what you need to do. And it's almost like a suitcase, not even a suitcase. It's like a small briefcase. Whereas a mechanic needs the cart you need to do just all the transmission and engine work is insane.
Yeah. So, how much do they need to know? I mean, mechanical engineering versus actual software and software applications. Do they need to know anything about code bases and that stuff? It's more physics.
No, not really.
Mechanical.
It's more it's not even mechanical. More the mechanical piece is actually, that's one of those things that comes with repetition, and you want them to hopefully have some exposure to mechanical. What we're really looking for is someone who's got a really good grasp on the fundamental electrical. And what I mean by that is nothing new. I'm talking Ohm's law, Watt's law, wire diagrams, blueprints, voltage drop, amperage, stuff like that. Ohm's law is like 100-year-old law, formula. So having that really good grasp of electrical fundamental allows you to really troubleshoot and understand how this car works. But further, that's any car coming off the line right now, not just Tesla, is going to have 20 to 60 different computers. So, and then further, you hear about, ADAS and, autonomous driving application systems and stuff like that. Our assistants are, that is none of that, all that's moot if you don't understand what, all a sensor is a glorified, just glorified circuit. Yeah. So there's nothing crazy technologically advanced about it other than just you know, maybe the battery system, the battery technology. Now that's a little different. But
Yeah, it's a taking the technology and streamlining it in a way that provides massive value. Very much like the iPhone. All in general, the components were generally the same, but it's the uniqueness of how it was put together,
yeah,
and the value add that it had. So,
yeah, and
wow.
just how things are packaged and the process you go about it, and then further, now that you've got this like rolling mobile app platform, right? You have the
Rolling
ability to
mobile
do,
app platform?
yeah,
I don't, I
because
don't.
it's a rolling mobile app platform. Like it's its own.
Oh, yes. Oh, I get it. Your car is the app, and yeah, okay.
Your
Yeah.
car is a platform, and it's got a computer in it, and it's got a touch screen. We just haven't really. You can add tune in and your Spotify, so you can host. There's a couple allowed applications that you're allowed to host on there. You can watch Netflix in your car, right? You can watch so stuff like that. So yeah, it's a rolling mobile app platform. So there is a lot there. It is a little bit more technologically advanced in that scenario. Um, but it's also, it's just packaged differently, and it's
Has anybody ever
the route
created
that we're
like
looking at.
Has anybody ever created like an external app that you thought was like innovative for the Tesla? Like, was there anything where like someone?
Oh man, there are apps for managing your Tesla. I think so for instance, I'm on my phone right now, but my phone,
I like how you checked your pockets to see where's my
I
phone was in
know,
front of
where's
you.
my
Totally
phone?
get it, man. I've done that so many times.
I'm like, that's one of those things where I'm always like, where's my phone? Right.
Yeah, where's my phone?
But we have, your Tesla app tells you where your car is. You can, control a lot of the aspects, change charging functions, open your car, lock your car, drive your car. You can move your car to, with a summon function.
Yeah.
But there are some third-party apps out there, people like for managing, mileage, or there's even apps for that take like VIN numbers that are public to create like, hey, when my car is going to come out. Like, let's say you buy a car and it's going to be coming out. Like, there's
Oh
apps for
wow.
that, right? That will like aggregate all the VINs that have been that are registered, because when a VIN registers, it's public knowledge, and it's on like a government database. So it's like people are like taking, it's like, and then this logarithm will literally calculate rate of delivery and rate of manufacturing and production, stuff like that. So
That's incredible.
I haven't really dug into like the third party stuff, but there is some things out there for managing your car. Someone was able to actually, I think, turn their like took a med device based chip that can be inserted,
Like a biofeedback device.
biofeedback device,
Yeah.
and as there, because your phone is your key. You have a key, you have a card. It looks like a credit card. That's also your key.
Mm-hmm.
But at least on the Model 3. So like that's my key, right?
Yeah.
But so is my phone. So, but I never pull this key out because I just walk up to my car and I open my door. I walk away, door locks. So they took that same application in this biofeedback, chip, and inserted it into their skin to have like, talk about, it's like, now my key is with me no matter where I go, right?
See, that's some strong dedication.
That is a little strong. That is a little cultish, I will say.
Well, it's just highly enthusiastic. I mean, it's anytime that you start putting things in your body, it starts to get interesting. But at the same time, things like that's like novelty. It's a pretty cool novelty, but it's going to start getting from novelty to actually like, maybe if my heart rate goes up, my car then calls the paramedics, right? You could have
totally,
things like that, and
it is, and especially with this group, I feel like it's almost becoming its own subculture. Is like these Tesla fans, like these Elon fans, because he's already trying to do that with Neuralink, right? Where using a mesh system to allow your mind to really like, really dive into how do we use AI to make better decisions for ourselves. And it's like, and I feel like I'm talking to the right person, obviously, when I'm talking about this stuff, right? Because we're literally, my relationship with you has always been based on the foundation of virtual reality, right? And smashing reality, smashing reality, right? Like really getting into the forefronts of that. So
I had a dream one time, and it was the dream of the Elon future. And it was this thing that popped in my head, where like you get out of bed, and I have the Neuralink in my head, and it connects up to one of his sky satellites, and I go, "Come to me, Tesla," and then it comes to me, and I walk up to the Tesla, door opens, I get in, I go, "Take me to my work," and then I go down the highway while I'm scanning the internet with my mind, and I drop down in one of those tunnels, and I go through one of those tunnels, and I pop out. While everything it's all seemed to be a lot of network-based activity that he does. It's a lot of like infrastructure. Like the Tesla's an infrastructure, the energy's infrastructure, the satellites are infrastructure, the tunnels are infrastructure. It seems to be, have you, I mean, have you seen things like on the horizon? I know there's nothing you can talk about specifically, but are there things that like people, like, do you see a future like this? Is there things that you imagine? Is there?
Yeah, no, you can just take a look at what's already out there, product wise, right? Like imagine, so for instance, we'll use a semi, right? And interstate commerce, right? And our semi product is going to have this autonomous application to it. And on top of the safety. So the big thing is, I look at it from when you're thinking infrastructure, you're also thinking like you're creating efficiency and you're creating safer environments, right? Mm-hmm. So with that tunnel situation, other than, a system going wrong, no one's ever going to get in an accident, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, let's say we had this whole network of cars, that are autonomously driving, and somewhat dotted line connected to each other, and it would almost be like polarizing magnets. Have you ever tried to push a polarizing magnet?
100%.
And it move, try to connect them and it moves. Well, imagine every other magnet was polarized, right? And you're just like so everyone shifts and moves within this
no collision,
the parameters. So there's no collision, right? Yeah. And then so traffic gets alleviated because now someone there, it's constantly moving and flowing because a car's maybe it's picking up a reading that the car's saying like, hey, this car's coming in at 70 miles an hour. So it speeds, because electric vehicles have the ability to accelerate, it accelerates to match that speed faster, or it's slowing down. And so everything is, partial driver, partial this system, this grid, right? That's what I like.
That's incredible. In terms of the whole like the autonomous driving side of things, I mean, the magnet thing is cool because I could totally see it's like a flock of birds, right? There's never any collisions. Yeah. They're always obeying the same types of rules, right? Simple rules in a complex design. And so. And what about the autonomy? Like, what about the autonomy of cars? Like do you foresee like a future where like it's going to be full autonomy, or is that, or because everybody wants to fall asleep with the cars? Like I just love a future where I can sleep and the car can work for me, like.
or more so than anything, talk about, efficiency, right? Go like get things done while in a car or whatnot. I think even someone like Elon is not going to want 100% autonomy, when it comes to one that just kind of takes some of the fun out of it all. Like people like to drive because they like to drive sometimes, right? Some people don't. Further, I think there's always going to be some level of politics at play that will not allow that. Right.
It's so interesting.
Like the electric vehicle scares the shit out of people.
It's like public voting, like voting online.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Right. Like, oh no, we can't make sure that everyone has access to voting. Like, it scares them.
It's dangerous. Yeah, totally.
So there, and that's the thing that I've learned in working with the education system in schools and community colleges and high schools and K through 12. It's like, it's not, a lot of this stuff is not their fault.
Yeah.
It's some of the systems we put in place.
Yeah.
Right. I come across some amazing, amazing educators and instructors who work so hard at the boundary of red tape. And it's not a ceiling, it's tape that's holding them back, right?
Yeah.
It's bureaucracy, it's political systems that at play that don't allow them to change curriculum fast enough, or, you know, really truly push the envelope, or have a say in how money is spent, in a school system. Further, it's, there's just like, there's still mindset changes that need to happen. And on top of that, I think manufacturers, and big businesses in communities need to be shepherds in their community, right? And I think they don't take that approach. And the ones who do might be too small to have enough power or money or resources to say that. We've really taken that approach, is to try and be shepherds in our community. Every program school that we've got, we're really trying to work with the school itself.
Yeah.
We're really trying. Go ahead.
Question, like in terms of a path, like, so you're talking about being shepherds of a community, and you're talking about, kids coming from maybe a disadvantaged youth, coming up and essentially giving an opportunity to work at an amazing futuristic job on futuristic tech, which is incredible. And as a geeky gamer myself, sounds like a dream come true. What do you think is the path? What would a path look like? And do you have, like, what does the path generally look like for these kids to come through? And do you have any actual, like, stories of someone coming from a certain place and then ended up in a great position because of this? Like,
no. And I, first and foremost, to put some context behind this, I think where maybe me not actually being in the being like a service technician or coming to technician, well, I really had to have this, like, I wanted to know, right? Mm-hmm. And so I became part social anthropologist, to figure out why the candidate population is made, why its makeup is, what is, why the certain demographics, what am I working with, what drives them, what motivates them, right? Because that really does determine, it's like it's marketing 101, like knowing your audience, right? I had this very wanted feeling, like, I need to know my audience. I need to know, where these, a lot of these people are coming from or trying to go, so I can maybe build a program that really suits them, right? So that was what I first did. And a lot of that was just banging doors, right? Going to community colleges and talking to instructors and meeting with the students and asking them, like, hey, what's your student makeup look like? And so when you bring up disenfranchised, that is the community college population for most parts, right? You've got a lot of kids who are in a crisis situation, which means, like, they don't know where, 80% don't know where 2/3 of their meals are coming from, right? Or they don't know where the next meal might be coming from. Further, these schools, there's there's a lot that goes on to it. Anyone who's got any sort of financial freedom whatsoever or wealth, right now there's a stigma where there's been this stigma for the last 10, 15 years, is my kid's not going to be turning a wrench, right? So no one going into these programs already has the resources or means. So anyone who is in these programs, it's because either they're first generation who's graduated high school and is going into a community college, or to go to post-secondary school of any sort of nature, or that their parents, they're doing the job themselves, and so that's why they're going to go into it as well. So for instance, I'll give you a good a snapshot of, like, one of my first class at Rio Hondo College, which is located in Whittier, city of industry, Pico Rivera. So, like, Eastern Los Angeles, more of like that gateway corridor. A lot of, the school itself has got a cemetery on one side and a dump on the other, right? And it's nestled into this little hill right there off the 605 freeway.
Wow.
And, but amazing programs. And so that first class I had 10 graduates come out of that class. All were Latino, 4 were dreamers, and I think I had 3 females, right? So, and the stories that, you know, most of them were, they were the first one to graduate high school. Most of them were the first ones to graduate post-secondary education and whatnot. Like I said, 4 of them were dreamers, were under DACA, right? So they were brought here from another country, or they were born here, but their parents were from another.
What do you mean by that?
So the dreamers is a moniker for any child who's born under DACA, which is the DACA is so a child is born here in America. Their parents are here illegally, but they're born here.
Got it. So that's what a dreamer is. Oh, thank you for clarifying. So 4 were dreamers, 3 were female. You had 10 graduates.
You know, so you look at that demographic, and you know, and almost all of them had some sort of hardship in their story, right? One way, shape, or form. And so it really, and that is not uncommon in our program, but that's because that demographic of student, you know, that's the path that they've been put on at a very early age, right? So we do get, it is, so in doing this social anthropology and doing our homework and really diving into what our population is, it's allowed us to really focus on, when we build programs, we take tuition costs very seriously, right? We make sure that we have strong relationships with workforce agencies. We make sure that we manage expectations, right? I think first and foremost, a lot of people, why people get disgruntled is lack of communication in any form of anything, right?
100%, yeah.
Right? So when you communicate with them up front and you say, hey, this is going to cost this, there's no guarantees, you need to be flexible and you need to work hard, all right, then it leaves them no excuse. Now, there are times where life just really throws them a curveball, right? And we take into that consideration. The beautiful thing is we get to adjudicate what's going on in our program because we own that program, right? Further, it's not a grade that they're earning, it's a livelihood. So we really want to take this seriously. It behooves us to make sure that they graduate and pass and get placed and know everything, because then that becomes mission critical now. Our mission being accelerating society towards sustainable transportation. So now we've got people out there who know how to work on our vehicles, which is mission critical, right? Is accelerating is part of that mission. So there's so much more at stake for us by having these, you know, really investing in these students and these candidates. And I can't call them kids, even though I feel like they're my kids, because a good majority of them are, you know, coming back for a second career or are at community college because they were, you know, decided to like really change their life, or were in the field for forever and finally decided to do it, you know, officially.
It's got to feel like you've got to feel like a dad. I mean, in a way, because I mean, you hear the stories, you hear the pains, you're investing time, you're giving of yourself, right? I mean, you gotta feel a sense of both. No, you do.
Yeah, and you also have the frustrations. You know, you definitely deal with the frustrations, and that's again, that's where we really take every opportunity to manage the expectation, right? And so, you know, the tough ones, the tough pills to swallow is you have a really great student who goes through the program, graduates, but because they weren't flexible or they didn't heed your advice and they can't relocate, we can't place them because we don't have like hundreds of jobs waiting for them right out. You know, I've only opened as many schools as I feel like demand has allowed me to. Now, as demand increases, we may consider that, but until I have a situation where I have, you know, a really crazy demand problem, I want to make sure that I've got an opening for every single one of my candidates. So yeah, so we have these situations though where not everyone who graduates gets placed because they can't leave their home. And sometimes the reason they can't leave is because they're taking care of their whole family, and they need to make sure and they just, somewhere in this process it slipped that they didn't think they had to relocate. So it's a tough pill to swallow. Fortunately, I have an amazing team, right? I have two of the strongest, project managers I think I've come across, who we've developed into project managers who are, recruiters by nature, know the business, have a strong sense of empathy, and are constantly challenging the status quo. And so they bend over backwards to get creative and look for routes and alternatives. And for us, with some of our graduates, it's not a no, it might be not a right now. So we're going to hold on to you, and we're going to figure out how we can maybe get you placed down the line if an opening does open up soon. So it's been an amazing experience. We have really changed some people's lives. We've got a girl who went through our first program, one of our first programs, and her story in itself was part of the reason. One, she was already top of her class at the school, right? But she said, and we had asked why. What did you do? And she's like, well, I was driving back and forth from Central California to Southern California for some things. I was pregnant, and I broke down on the side of the road, and it was like, I don't know, her wheel or got a flat tire or whatever it was. She sat there and she was crying and was like, and then all of a sudden had this epiphany, like, I can do this. I can do this for him. I can do this for my child, my unborn child. And literally pulled out the manual and saw how she could change the tire. She changed the tire. It was like, if that's all it is, and enjoyed it, or felt a sense of accomplishment. And so went back to school, and that's what she was doing. When we got her, she had just finished, she got her bachelor's in this. So Rio Honda's one of the few that has a bachelor's in automotive technology in this, it's got a bachelor's form. But she was working like 60 hours a week on top of going to the program, 40 hours a week. And I was like, that's 100 hours a week. Where are you finding all this time? She graduated close to top of her class. She came out, went to, was a high level technician at one of our, at our Tempe facility or Scottsdale facility, killed it.
Okay.
And was like, hey, I really want to go into, I want to be an instructor. I've gone through this program. And so she interviewed for an opening as an instructor that we had, and she blew the competition out of the water. No formal instruction training, but we gave everyone, hey, give us a lesson plan, talk to us, teach us about something. And she killed it and was a great instructor. And then, was like, hey, I need to get closer to my family. And but because of her background, because as a technician, everything that she's done, she's now an assistant. She's an assistant manager at our Tempe facility. And she's maybe 3.5 years removed from the program.
Wow.
So that meteoric climb is all because of how hard she worked, but the opportunities and access that we've given her and created. Right.
It needs to be a collaborative thing. She needs to have the fire behind her, but then it needs the opportunity ahead. Fire into a brick wall isn't very helpful. So
yeah, exactly. And you could go through every book imaginable trying to find that, right? You could almost mix, start with the why. You can go with a little Simon Sinek, and you can go with, all these other driven, how do you drive, through and breaking ceilings and how to influence people by Andrew Carnegie or Dale, and you can add all these books, but it really is it's like a collaboration, because when we instruct and these are former technicians who are instructors. 2, they already work for the company. So here we're also learning how we could solve an educational flaw. It is that instructors, generally don't have some of them aren't bought in because they don't have a product that they can believe in, right? These instructors believe in Tesla. They believe in the product. They believe in what they're doing. and they're passing that tribal knowledge onto these students in a very, structured way.
That's
So
powerful. Well, and
it
also
is.
there's a couple of things there. One, you gotta first believe and go on that path. And
Yeah.
the other one really is there's nothing more. I mean, you talked about disenfranchised or disadvantaged kids at these colleges or young adults at these colleges. And there's nothing more disenfranchising than having a teacher who doesn't want to teach, to having someone who doesn't want to be there, who doesn't believe in the system, doesn't believe in what they're teaching, feels like it's pointless. And then they're just giving all that energy to you. And you're
Yeah. It totally is. It's a total transfer of energy. I think that's a really great call out. Is it's like transfer of energy, but in one way, shape, or form, like sometimes it necessarily isn't that. You can only beat down on someone so much, and these instructors and some of these educators, they work with what they've got, right? And they work with what they've given, and so that's where we also see the advantages. We bring this cachet that Tesla has, like this name, and it opens up, a realm of different things, right?
Yeah.
Further, it's just,
But it was
now
built
it gives them.
like you built like in terms of like a cachet. It's not like, oh, I bought a brand and look how awesome the insert logo here is like Tesla. The reason why you have such a powerful name is because of one, the product that you deliver, and also the purpose that you have behind that. And that's something that like you got in really early into Tesla, didn't you? Like what was,
Yeah.
like, can you talk to me a little bit about how you got, like, where did you come from? And then how did you get into Tesla? And then what was it like coming up into Tesla?
Yeah, no. I think so. I was 4 years out of college, had been working. I was more than 4 years out of college. I'd been working in like technical sales and then got into recruiting, right? Through a fraternity brother of mine. So I was working at an agency where we were recruiting, I was mainly recruiting engineers. So engineers and engineering talent for manufacturing, for most manufacturing spaces, right? Whether it was toilets or PCB boards or whatnot, or med devices.
Yeah.
And so one of the, I naturally love to be able to like mentor. I don't know, maybe it's just that how, you grow up and then experiences and whatnot. So one of the newer recruiters, his industry was getting imploded. This was during 2008, 2009. So the automotive industry was imploding, and he only specialized in automotive recruiting, right? And so his manager came over to me and was like, hey man, like, you're super knowledgeable on engineering in general. You mind like, kind of like learning up Aaron on some stuff? And I was like, hell yeah, man. Like, so I got to know Aaron, realized that, smaller world, and was just helping him along the way and developing a strong relationship. And it's one of those things like, grandfather had always, grandfather, my father always said like, hey, treat people like lottery tickets. Like my mom has always said too, like treat people, we always treat people with a lottery ticket. And one day he was gone and I was like, what the? And I get a call like a month later and he's like, hey man, I was like, dude, where are you? And he was like, hey, I'm at Tesla. I was like, Tesla, like that really like that fledgling, electric vehicle startup, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, they asked me if I want to, I need to build a team and who do I know? And I thought of you. I was like, I couldn't think of any, not a lot of other people. So I was like, all right. And he says, would you be interested? I was like, yeah. Like, and I had an interest, definitely had an interest in vehicles already. And then on top of that, I had that moment where I was not really happy with what I was doing or where I was at. And the idea of being on the ground floor, it's like it was like one of those grab that moment type situation, like dare to be great. So it's like, yeah. And so I went in and, interviewed with his manager, and then I interviewed again in person, and I'm like interviewing at SpaceX, right? Because at the time there was no other space. And I just went guns a-blazing and got the job. Wow. And started with Tesla. And so we started off This was 2009, summer 2009. We were working at SpaceX. We were working for Tesla at SpaceX. So I would walk through this rocket factory from the parking lot to get up to my office, right? Or to our office, where we literally they had carpeted some space for us, so that we could work there while we were ultimately trying to find out where our factory's at. We had a small corner in the factory itself that we had like a surface plate on there with one of the prototypes, like like clay model, or but like what you see when you think about designing a car. It's like they're shaving like clay and whatnot. So it was kind of like surreal. Like, here I am working in a rocket factory building electric cars. Right?
Welcome to the future.
Welcome to the future, right? I had like this like badge, I was like,
I swear I'm allowed to be here. Let me in. Let me in.
I know. And so, I got to see like one of the first, I got to be in the factory when we did a launch, right? So we were like watching, because Mission Critical was literally like just wasn't built. So the mission, room wasn't built yet. So it was like them sitting all at desk, and everyone it was like someone holding a sign saying, "Just shut up, like be quiet." And so we got to watch like this, like, oh my God, I think it was like a GIS satellite that went over, like, it was supposed to hover over Malaysia and Southeast Asia to dictate weather patterns. So for rice crops, right? And I'm just like, this is insane. Like, what am I doing? Like, so just really focused on building the company out and like kind of getting my bearings, really enjoying the work, working long hours. And then they're like, hey, you've got manufacturing experience. We need to really start building out our manufacturing team. So started building out a manufacturing team. And then, so, top down type approach, trying to get people to move from Michigan and the Midwest. Even though they lost their job, it's so difficult to bring someone from the Midwest to come pay more money in California, right? Where it's like, no, you're not going to have a 3,500 square foot house on a quarter of an acre land, but I got the Pacific Ocean right there for you. I used to say, hey, it costs more because we pay a sun tax here. Right?
100%. Yeah.
So
bitter and cold.
Yeah. And so we started building out these teams, and then the hunt for a factory started happening. And so they looked at a couple places down here in Southern California, and we were like 99% ready to do that. And then they made that deal with Toyota to buy the factory up in Fremont. And my brother and I just inked, just the ink hadn't even dried yet on buying a place in Pasadena so that we could be local, right? Because we were trying to do the smart thing and buy, buy something in a really down market.
Yeah.
So nonetheless, I lived in that place for 8 months. I think Drew maybe lived in it for a year. We rented it out, but and then I moved up to the Bay Area because we bought this factory up in the Bay Area. And it was really insane to see the company go. There were 17 of us in this like little office, all sitting on these IKEA desks, and then it grew to 45. And before you know it, there was 100 of us, and we're like, we're sharing IKEA desks because our budget was tapped out. So it's like one of those things where you're constantly waiting for more funding to be released, or Elon would release more funds where we felt. So like, we couldn't buy any more desks. So we're all sharing one IKEA desk, so 2 to an IKEA desk, right? So myself, 6 foot, my manager, 6'7", sharing this one IKEA desk. But that's how and we had like 8 Walmart coffee makers in our pseudo break room because we didn't have like anything official. And so it's like every morning, I get in there and what's empty? All right, let's start making coffee, and just continue to. Everyone had this like rotation where they were always making coffee, right? Because it's like go juice, right? And then you got this huge 5.5 million square foot factory, and I used to sell it as 5.5 million square feet of opportunity, right? Because it is. And to see like one chunk of it and one part of it, when we had to get it commissioned, we were only using like 1/5 of it. and then to see it continue to grow and grow and grow. And so I kept, doing that and, grow in that factory, right, and take over a lot of that factory.
How many employees do you guys have now?
Worldwide, we're somewhere north of 50,000, I think.
So in 10 years, so from the 14 to 17 to 50,000 is
when I came onto the company, I think we were close to 400 employees total.
Yeah.
And then when I started manufacturing, there were 17 of us in manufacturing. So in manufacturing alone, for that factory. So yeah, to see where it is now. So yeah, I worked, we built it out, and I watched the car roll out. But I was working just insane hours and was tired and just, looking for something else.
Were you told that you had to work those hours, or like, what was it, just because you wanted to? Were you salary? What was the?
Yeah, so it was salary, but we weren't paid very well.
Yeah.
Obviously, stock options, at the time weren't, it wasn't enlightening you yet, because it was still like, like $14 a share or $15 a share. And so I think you worked because it was one of those things where people who joined Tesla were there for the mission. They were there because they believed in it and wanted to believe in it. I had multitude of opportunities come after me, while working at Tesla. And eventually I got to the point where I was tired. You can only do the 75, 80-hour weeks so many months at a time, so many years at a time, before you're just like, especially when I wasn't even enjoying life, and I was really starting to get depressed. And so,
even though you had a mission, even though you were driven,
you're driven, there still
going
wasn't,
at like 95,
no,
then 90, then 80, and then, so even though you're trying to give it your all
of a sudden you're like, everything just becomes harder and harder and harder. Yeah. Right. So at that point, I decided to take another opportunity. Went to work for Apple as a contract recruiter, just because I didn't know what I was going to do. And realized, like, amazing product, amazing company, right? Like, talk about just a machine. But I felt lost. I felt lost. I didn't feel like I felt like it just wasn't for me, right? I had a couple teams that I supported, and that's all I did was support those teams. And I was never a part of a team or part of something, nor did I really, I don't know, not necessarily buy in. I believed in the mission, but I wasn't bought in.
With Apple?
So yeah. So like I said, I'm still a huge fan of them, and still a huge fan.
What's Apple's mission?
What is it? I can't. It's been 7 years, or 8 years. So that's the thing, is I don't even remember it, nor do I remember really like Facebook, because then I went to work for Facebook, right? Because everyone was like, "Hey, water's warm over here. Why don't you come, try some things out here?" So went over because I had a bunch of friends who worked there and worked at Facebook. And again, one of those things, inevitably believed that it was something that they were, what they were doing was good. Like I was getting some exposure to, like, Internet for All, right? And that project, and them trying to create the utilizing gliders in a second tier atmosphere to be the triangulation piece for at least providing 3G.
Who's doing that?
Tesla or
Tesla.
Facebook.
Tesla.
No, Facebook. Facebook was. So
I missed that one.
Yeah, no. And so that I was like, this is really cool. Like, this is like, and the whole like open compute project, I really love the idea of like opening up some of their stuff to outside, designers and freelancers to really get involved and develop some of the, on some of their platforms. And like, just and then also utilizing their data centers, right? Making like these cookie cutter data centers that everyone type thing, right? So I was recruiting on a lot of the supply chain options for some of those projects, right? But I just felt, again, like I was lost. It was another number, and I felt like, as for a social company, it felt very antisocial, right? And
Were you in their campus up at Hacker Way?
yeah, I was off One Hacker Way. I was, I think I was in um, building 12 for a little bit and building 4. So the amenities are amazing, by the way, too. It's like,
yeah, I've been there.
I think
it's an incredible campus. So
I think I set you up with my buddy Joe. Did I set you guys up with my buddy Joe?
we got the tour of the whole area. My favorite moment was when I went to go use the bathroom. I closed the bathroom stall and it said Facebook the Daily Push, and it had like news information in the bathroom. I was like, how efficient! How efficient! While you're trying to go to the bathroom, there's information right there on the stall for you to read.
Yeah. So it was just, but again, it was like something about this, like, yeah, you make a good living and you get to work on some cool stuff, but was I fulfilled, right?
Yeah.
And then an old manager of mine asked, on the university team, said, hey, would you ever think about coming back to Tesla? And I was like, I would. I left because I was tired. It wasn't, and I just felt like, we were left there out on an island, to fend for ourselves a little bit. But yeah, I would. I love the product. I love the mission. I love creating things. I love building things. She's like, well, I got a role, and I just said, I just don't want to be a recruiter. And she says, well, I've got a program manager role, building new programs, working with community colleges, trade schools, working with skilled trades. And I was like, yeah, you got my attention. Let's do this. And so she gave me an offer, and was just one of those things where, I took a pay cut, but I was like getting to do something new and build something from scratch and do it on my own. And so it was worth it. And that's where I had that epiphany where it's like, or I started to feel actual fulfillment, right? And I was like, this is what fulfillment in a job is. Like, this is what like, paycheck's nice. And you need it to live and pay for things, right? And I've been able to, obviously accumulate enough to buy things that I need and provide for my family and provide for my kids now. But I'm, at the same time, I wake up feeling like I'm not, oh shit, I got to do this again today, right? I love what I do. It's not, there's no grind. And when it is a grind, something slaps me in the face and reminds me, like, hey, this is just a lot bigger than what you think it is, right? And so now, we really, and to also to validate your belief in a company by seeing some of the success and seeing, the stock price rise and more products. I've been a part of a company. I've been a part of every single product launch now, right? So to see like every product roll off and be a part of the company and watch it roll off, and the adoption of electric vehicles and the adoption of infrastructure, and then to use that platform and to use that, Tesla is very much of, just because it's been done for the same way for 90 years doesn't mean it's the right way, and they really do believe in meritocracy. And it's like, if you see something you want to change, start, change it, and then put together a proposal as to what your results were, and we'll see if we want to continue to move forward with it, right? But that's really how it is like, you see a role that you want to do, you start doing that role, really change, the landscape. And as long as there's a value add, Tesla's all for it, because we really try and bring as much in-house as possible. So, that the architecture and adoption of this program that I'm so heavily involved was, I wanted to work with community colleges and trade schools. I was working with these kids and trying to get them more injected into Tesla. Service training was like, hey, how do we like get rid of this training backlog? We have so many people we need to train, and we kind of were like bumping our heads together. And I can't take any credit. It was like, these two guys, Marty Thomas and Donadonzo, like, who were like, we want to build our own thing. How do we build it utilizing some of your programs? so we built the START program, and we tested it out, and we broke a lot of things and figured out what works. And that's also where we really started realizing, really taking the students' background and demographics and why and where they come from and why it's so important how we train and we're cognizant and conscious of that. Right. So it was really important for us to make sure that we made sure they had enough hours each week and enough pay that they didn't have to go work a second job. Right. Further, really wanting to make sure that they understood that we're here for them, and we want them to succeed, because how many opportunities are out there where you can, go 12 weeks and double your pay. Right.
Yeah.
So, some of these kids were going from $14 an hour to $28 an hour, right? Because this whole meritocracy, this whole like work harder, your scores, your leveling. We also took, we approached it from like I said, in-class learning, in lab, hands-on lab work, one-on-one observations with an instructor, and then in-field observation. So they would do like a rotation at service centers nearby, and we'd get feedback from some of those service managers. So we threw that all into it, and it allowed us to really come up with as a concrete but possible way of determining if someone was going to be successful and at what level they were already at, so we could set that trajectory. And so you would get you get a range, but it's been really awesome to see the program evolve and grow. And like I said, now at 8 schools across the country. And then now we're building it for energy, building that same academy-like style program for our energy installation, as well as for manufacturing, and that'll kick off out in Austin. But that will, once that's built and established and running, then we'll bring that back to Fremont and to Reno and to Buffalo, where we have our factories there as well. So
that's beautiful. Is it called the START program?
It's called START. No acronym. No, there's no acronym behind it. It's just START, because Elon doesn't like acronyms.
I heard they got a little free willy on the acronyms over there, and I think I heard about that. There's like a big declaring no more acronyms, right? Like
it's just so yeah, we're creating its own umbrella. So START is becoming its own umbrella. The thing that's kind of testified is like the A has a little electric bolt, little bolt in the A itself. So
what's cool about this, and here's what I like about this more than anything, because a lot of what this podcast is about and what this all is about is turning life into a game. And really what the game that you created this little micro challenge. Hey, 12 weeks. We're going to give you resources. We're also going to create challenges. We're going to give you mentors, and we're going to give you a path to follow. And that right there, and then an opportunity to level up after that to get out the gate. And really, you really took these people to go, hey, do you want to play the game of Tesla? You want to get in here and play? Great. Here's the challenge. The challenge is you start at week 0. And you've got to go through it, but you need to but you've got to show up. You can't just passively watch by. You're not going to this isn't another type of college class where you can just kind of get degrees. It's like degrees is the score means nothing unless you go and actually get a job afterwards, because this is all about like, there is the holy grail at the end of your thing is you could go and get a job, and you can go to say Austin or any of these other places and actually be a part of a company that is trying to, as I think you said it, accelerate society towards sustainable driving.
Yeah. It's like, if you totally would to look at it as like a game, it is. This is your opportunity to go through 12 levels to level up. And then what your career is, afterwards, that's like, Contra 2, right? So when I mean, or it's like Super Mario Brothers 2 or I'm going to use the games that I grew up.
I played Contra. I remember Contra.
And so it's like, Yeah, it's like up, down, left, right. You know, everyone still knows.
Let's start. Yeah.
So,
Dun, dun,
but it's like
dun, dun.
when you played the second version of a game, you already kind of knew everything you needed to know. You just now had to it was going to be it was a different environment, different, you know, strategy, different, but you had like an idea, like you knew, like when you first played Super Mario Brothers, it was like, wait, what's that shell? Like, why is that coming out? Or what are those? Do I need to get those coins? Or wait, that's a portal. Oh my God, I didn't realize like I could go down that tunnel, that tube, right? So now you go and play 2 or you go play 3, you know that some of these certain things are already there, right? You've already developed that baseline of knowledge, and now it's going to be a different environment and you can excel and, you know, further as you go along with your career. So, you know, I'm trying to gamify.
100%, man. I'm there with you, and I agree with you. You got the vernacular, you know what's going on with it, and you know how to play the game, right? You know, show up, work hard, meritocracy, be creative. You get paid if you actually put in, if you're willing to play, but you gotta be willing to put in the effort, and then you gotta keep up to really excel in the sport, because you're playing with a bunch of, it's now, you're not no longer in the minor leagues, you're stepping up into the majors, because it's now you're playing with a bunch of other people that are willing to go full tilt into Tesla, because they're all a driving force in that direction.
Yeah, no. And so it really, the idea too is everyone coming into the company now is going through, so every entry level technician now, it's almost, they come through START, right? So we have 5, you know, degrees of 5 levels at that technician level. It's S1 through 5. Almost 100% of all S1s and 2s who go to work in the field come through the program now. So it is like, you go first, if you want entry level people, you grab them from START. The only people we're really hiring out externally are S3s who might have been a master tech somewhere else. And then S4s and 5s are people who have been working at the company, have been leveled up. So we're really trying to take this focus where there's only one entry point externally. Everyone else is either coming from within the company or coming from a company-based program.
Vertical integration of people. That's,
you know, and so that's the same. That's the approach we're really trying to take with Austin on all levels. You know, we've got so many amazing workforce development programs, and I get to work with some really amazing, smart people. We're very driven, who, you know, believe in the mission, who also, the common denominator is like, when we build these programs, it's because it's the right thing to do, right? Yeah. It is the right thing to do. It's like, prepare people to be successful. They will in return, you know, produce for you. And then on top of that, you reduce attrition, you create a culture, you set people's trajectory a little higher, a little faster. There's also some value add in people who don't get through the program and they wash out. It's like, that was a bad apple, right? That person is not
good filter. Yeah, 100%.
It's a great filter. Yeah. Like, I love the fact that when people are like, why aren't you at 100%? It's like, I don't want to be at 100%. If I'm at 100%, the program's not doing its job. So
what advice would you give to like a young kid who wants to work at Tesla, maybe through the service center? Like, what if they're interested, like, oh, this is great, what would you say?
I think I would say, find out what you're passionate about first. Like, do you really enjoy building things? Do you enjoy like taking things apart and figuring out how things work, right? Or do you enjoy working, whatever it is that there's that opportunity at Tesla. You just got to know what it is you're passionate about. And I think that's what I would say with Tesla. It's like, I'm decent with my hands. I can build a lot of things, but I don't work on cars for a living, right? I work with people for a living and that's what I do best, right? So, I'm not an engineer by any means. Do I understand engineering and physics and a lot of the things that go on? Yeah, but that's a byproduct of what I do. I hire technical people, right? But I like working with people. I like being in front of students, and I want to engage students, and I want to lift them up, and I want to show them there's opportunities. So that when I say be passionate about find out what you're passionate about, and then that's the path that you go. And I'm pretty sure Tesla will have it. Like, even if you're really passionate about food, we've got people who cook for thousands of people, right? We've got, our factories are, have full on kitchens and stuff like that, right? So there is a role for a lot of people at Tesla. It's just, you got to be passionate about what it is that you want to do. And I think that's, in general, if kids were, guided on their passions and what it is that made them passionate, and then we embrace that and then put them on that track to being more passionate and continue to work in that field, like, then their ability to make impact sooner is exponential, right? Further, they might not go to a school or go do something that their parents told them to do. And then they are now, there's this new thing, 26 is the new 18, where we have kids who go through college because their parents or someone else made them go through college. They get a degree, they realize they don't like what they're doing, or they're not passionate about what they're doing. So then they got to take like a couple of years to figure it out, and they're back to square one, but they're going into like a trade school or going into a career technical education program, or developing video games, right? So it's like, it's one of those things where had your passion been embraced, and there was a track and a school or a structure or an institution that pushed you along that track and realized, no, Dylan's in this development and building, outside of the realm of reality. We need to embrace that and give him the resources to do that as a young boy and as an adolescent, as a teenager,
All about it, man. You're cultivating the passion and just finding because if you find that passion, it's that engine, that driving force that pushes you into the direction. Whatever you excel at, people will hire you. If you're deeply passionate about it, and all of a sudden,
oh man,
put a rocket engine on your car, well, Tesla's going to come and knock it. They're like, hey, you seem to be passionate about this. What's going down?
Yeah, no, totally. It's like, you can't there's things you can't teach, and there are things you can't train, right? I feel like work ethic and passion are two of those things, right? But I also feel that those kind of go hand in hand too, right? Because if you're passionate about something, it's not work, right?
100%, dude.
So it doesn't seem like a work ethic to you, but to someone else is like, man, that person's got a work ethic.
No, you're just obsessed. You're just obsessed. You're like,
you're just obsessed.
I love it.
You're just obsessed. So
I love it, man. So let's do this. We're coming toward the end of the thing. We usually go for about an hour. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they find you? How do they reach out to you? If someone wanted, whether it was a school.
Yeah, you. Most professionals will reach out to me on LinkedIn. Okay. Right, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm probably I've reached or close to like 10,000 connections, and that's just because the nature of being a recruiter at a really big name company or multiple big name companies. Everyone wants, how do I get a job? How do I get a job? How do I get a job? Like, when we get in, right? So, but for the most part, that's a great way. People can find me on Instagram. They can find me on Facebook.
What's your Instagram handle?
It's Tony James Sciarra, at Tony James Sciarra.
At Tony James Sciarra.
So, I'd give my email out, but I already am like, I think I'm like 50 emails deep today that I haven't answered. So it's like,
that's not good. We have to say a middle name. Yeah. I love it.
So yeah, so they can reach me that way.
Perfect.
Or through the podcast, and hey, if someone wants to reach out,
Yeah, they can reach out. No, it's all perfect. Yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, that'll work. Beautiful, man. Well, hey, Tony, thank you, brother. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you creating opportunities for kids, man. And turning work into a game, making things a bit more fun, and also again, accelerating society to a sustainable driving. Is that what it was? Accelerating
transportation.
Accelerating society to sustainable transportation. So it's a noble and beautiful mission, and I love the way you go about it, brother. So best of luck with everything you got going on, man. And I look forward to hanging out with you in person at some point.
Likewise. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. See you, Tony. Take care, brother.
Likewise. Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes of Reality podcast. Check out heroesofreality.com for more episodes. While you're there, you can also take the Heroes quiz to find out what kind of hero you are. Or if you have a great story and want to be on the podcast, tell us why your hero's journey will inspire others. Thank you for listening. See you on the other side.